Hi everyone, it's still me, Amina Jaman, moderator of New York Neil Gallery 5th edition. I'm so happy to be back and to talk to my next guest. Her name is Suzie Hanna. Hi, there she is. So I'm about to invite you. Stay there. Here, joining us. Hi. Suzie?
Hiya, can you see me, hear me?
Hi.
Oh yeah, I can. I can see you. I can see you
Yes.
with a
Can
load of.
you hear me as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yes.
well done. You got me.
Yes,
It's
I
like
got
a
you.
wolf.
I got you, babe. As Cher sang us, I got you, babe. Where
Well,
is Beavis and Butthead, right?
well, thank
So,
you. Thank you for
yes,
inviting me. It's great. Great to be here. So yeah, and
it's a pleasure.
thank you for selecting the little film for your festival too. It's.
Yes,
I
it's a
have to.
wonderful animated short film
Well, it,
called The Cherry Tree,
it's a
and
much.
it's animated and directed by Suzie Hanna, or should I call you Professor Hanna?
Well, you can if you like. You know, we
Okay,
I
so
see you're quite well qualified yourself.
yes, PhD in arts, and it took me so like my entire youth. That's
Well, yeah.
it.
Well, with me, I was more like, I was more like an old wine. It took me a long time to get my
Yes,
professorship, but yeah, I was teaching for a long time and making lots of films. But I
yeah,
just
but
need to,
that's
I need to say the chair.
incredible.
Sorry.
That's incredible, the result, and nothing outstanding or great comes easy, and fast.
No, but I do have to tell you that film. Oopsie, sorry. Uh-oh, I'm just trying to make myself look less peculiar. That's better. Um,
Mhm. Great
that
framing.
I made that film in 2 weeks flat, so I know that it's a bit of a basic film. It's not, I'm going to just fess up and say it's not particularly well animated, but I
No,
think,
it's great. I loved it.
but there's
It's
other
so
things about it that I
colorful.
do like. Yeah, I like the mood of it. I'm pleased with the mood. Um,
It's beautiful. I really loved it, and the contrast of colors, the
Thank
black
you.
tree, red, chair is so beautiful, and you see a lifelong relationship between a woman and a tree, and you see how life goes, fast, right? It goes so
Yeah,
fast,
yeah,
just as the life of a tree, right?
yeah,
And I love the blossom.
yeah.
So beautiful.
Oh,
The
thank you.
everything is so beautiful. The flowers, absolutely. And you see a little girl, and then you see a lady, young lady, and then you see an old woman.
Yeah, it's very
It's
compressed.
so touching. Yes, I love the story and the message of it that, only this moment is
Yeah.
certain, right? As it said in the poem.
Well, Vicky Fever, who wrote the poem, is an extremely
Mm-hmm.
good poet. I mean, she's the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like me, she's an old lady. In fact, she's older than me. So I think, she's getting on for 80. I think she's 80.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that her poetry now is different to the poetry she wrote when she was young.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I think poets are brilliant. They can really compress messages. And my whole thing is really about animation and poetry. That
Mm-hmm.
I think animation is a good form for dealing with poetry
Yes, absolutely.
because it
And
has.
it's truly original.
Well, I hope so. Anyway,
No, it is.
Vicky let me animate her poem. She said I could animate any of her poems, which is very nice of her. And I got the actress Dani Limon. Now she's older than me as well. So basically, it's made by old ladies. This film is a film made by old ladies, but I think
The age
it
is
doesn't.
just a number.
Yeah.
It's just a number. I mean, who cares if you're
No,
outstanding,
well, I mean, I go to film festivals, and what I love is that there is a complete mix of ages. It doesn't matter if you're old; you can still be a filmmaker. It's not just a young person's game.
No, no, it's
It's
all
brilliant.
about
Yeah.
the talent, about your message, about your story. If you have something to say, you can say it at any age,
Yeah.
But
I
as
thought
my teacher
so.
used to say at the Russian Academy of Theater Arts, if you have nothing to say at age 15, you'll have nothing to say in 15 years as well. So
Yeah.
it's all about
Give me a child
your
7,
spiritual world
yeah.
and your education. That's why like education is really important. So you invest in yourself, in your brain, you know, in your like your life, right? So
Well,
you want to see the world, you want to read more, you want to learn more, and then you have a lot to say. So it's truly important. And age, as I said, is just a number. And you can be professional at 20, you can be professional at 90, and you can be absolutely mediocre at 50 or 40. So even like the experience uh, doesn't matter if you don't have that light within you and big talent. You know, you can be professional, but do things that don't touch people.
I think that I think the trick is to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I think if your life doesn't give you time to play with ideas, then it's a very sad thing. And, you know,
exactly. Well said.
I think it's just a case of if you're lucky, you can play. And it's not class dependent. I mean, you know, I suppose when we're children, all of us, the first thing we do is start to play in a way. And I would say that, you know, people who continue to enjoy their creativity are people who haven't forgotten how to play.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and also Pablo Picasso used to say that every child is an artist. The problem is to say child when we grow up, right? So you can have
Do you
that
know what? It says I've got
reaction, real, you know, true reactions, you know, you can be pure as a child, you know, and you believe that everything is possible, you know. And as Eugene O'Neill wrote, all God's children got wings, right? We do have wings, but like when we grow up, other people want to cut them, you know, and that's the problem. But we should have wings and we should believe in miracles and keep on going and making our dreams, you know, into reality. So it takes, you know, many years, but still, it's all of the result. So are you personally satisfied with the result of your work?
what? Oh, I think all of us, anybody creative, possibly thinks they could always do better.
Mm-hmm.
But a deadline will always make you stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I'm pleased with what I learn,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very pleased if my films get selected for.
So I lost sound. Oh,
Very
now I
low
hear you.
battery.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd say I think the other reason you keep going and keep working and making new things is because you think you can do better.
Mm-hmm. Of course, and you have more ideas, more stories. You know,
Always, yes.
you can't express every talent you have in one film only, and you can't say everything you want to say in one project. Impossible.
Amina, I'm going to have to get my phone charger. It's for some.
Oh, okay.
I think because I was watching you do the last session for half an hour. My phone got out. I didn't realise how much.
I see.
So
you put the blame on me?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Okay, so we'll be back in 10 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Is that enough to charge your phone?
I have to charge the phone. I mean, I can bring the charger up here and I can put it on. So if you could get back to me in about 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. I will get back to you.
Hi, Paul's watching. One of my students is watching this.
Is that the
Paul, I'm going. Coming back.
Hi.
Bye.
Yeah.
I'm coming back again. Bye.
We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Call me back.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't go away. Stay tuned. See you later.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Amina Jaman, moderator of New York Neil Gallery's 5th edition. I'm so excited to continue my conversation with Suzie Hanna, or Professor Hanna, director and animator of the movie The Cherry Tree. Beautiful animated short film. Hi Hannah, let me invite you right away and we'll continue our conversation. Really. So, Susie joining us from UK.
Yeah, Sabrina.
Hey, hi again.
Right, I've gone a bit dark. I've gone a bit
Yes.
dark, haven't I? Sorry. Do you want me to?
So,
I might need a bit
Su-
more light. Shall I put some more light? Well, actually, I'm probably better dark.
no, it looks great, both like lighter or darker.
Well,
I thought it's a special effect.
I'll stay in the dark. That's fine. I mean,
Okay,
it is
so
after.
Susie,
It is
I
night
wanted
time.
to ask, are you somehow related to Bob Hanna, who did music for your animated
Yeah,
short?
yeah. He's my husband, and he's
Oh,
yeah.
small world.
Well, I'm lucky. I'm lucky.
Yes.
I come from a musical family, and I've married a man who's a musician, so I'm very lucky. Because we carry on playing music together as well. Because I play the violin, and
Wow,
we've got a little
that's so
band.
cool. And I saw drums behind you.
They're my son's. He's left them here. He hasn't got anywhere to put them. Yeah, the
So
guitars and
cool.
his things here, but he doesn't live here obviously because he's got his own family. But
I see.
yeah, so
But
I've
to
ended up
have
being
drums at home, and what can be better, you know?
I'm the storekeeper here.
Yeah, I see, I see. So, tell us more about your animated short film, The Cherry Tree.
Okay, all right. Well, um, Vicky Fever, the
Hmm.
poet Vicky Fever, and she's a
Yeah.
very well-known poet, by the way. She's not she's very published, and she's won lots of prizes. And I asked her because I really love her poems. I said, "Could I please animate one of your poems?"
Mm-hmm.
She very kindly said that I could, and I chose that one, and she agreed I could. And I got an actress,
Permission.
Dani Limon, who's French. I got her to read it because really I think it's really important the voice, okay? And Vicky
Mm-hmm.
Fever did not want to read it herself.
Mm-hmm.
So you always ask the poet. If you're going to make a film of a poem, it's only polite to ask the poet if they would like to read it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
always want to read it. And I thought that Dani had this quite sadness in her voice. And
Mm-hmm.
I also liked the fact that it wasn't class. I mean, if that voice had been a really posh person or somebody who couldn't articulate as well as Dani, because she's an actress, I think she
Mm-hmm.
could read the poem very well and with a lot of emotion. And I went round to her house with my little recorder, like just a little Zoom recorder, and recorded
Recorded
her.
to go,
Yeah,
like
well,
coffee to go.
it's a no budget film, it was a no budget film. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
As all indie films, right?
well, lots of films are no budget films. So that was definitely a no budget film. And my husband, we've been working with Dani Limon because she is in a theatre company called the Sacré Théâtre, and it
Mm-hmm.
is the only French theatre company in England. So, and we do the music for their plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and we've been playing music for their plays. And so it was, a good time to,
You did collaborate with each other earlier,
yeah,
right?
and which is about, where, animators can work in lots of areas. And I see you're a theatre person. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I work with projections as well, as many people do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some back projections for
Wow, awesome.
anyway, so, and then I've got another lovely friend called Jude Cowan Montague,
Mm-hmm.
and I love her drawings. And so I said, I'm doing this poem. I want a child, a middle-aged woman, and an old lady. Can you give me
Mm-hmm.
some sketches? So she drew some sketches for me of the character, and then
Yeah, to the character design.
and then I adapted those so that I could
Mm-hmm.
animate them. And but I made the film in 2 weeks flat, so
Wow.
it's a very, the production time was very short. And I tell you what I made it for. I made it for, believe it or not, a sculpture trail. So
Wow.
this woman I know, is a friend of mine, Sarah. She runs this amazing sculpture trail every summer, and she invites, I don't know how many people, it's probably around 100 people exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last couple of years, I've run a micro kino, a tiny cinema in the grounds. So this year it was like a tent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Last year it was a shed, and so I curate this and I put very short films in, because particularly with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to put a few people in a space, you don't want to put them in there too long. So I curate a really short program of very short films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you've only got 15 minutes, you can put in 5 3-minute films. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it's half an hour.
Very short films.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's okay, isn't it? Because, you know, animation, it can tell a story as a
Of
poem
course.
in a very short space. And so I made the film really to go in the kino,
Mm-hmm.
to put in this program of films this year, which I had some lovely films. I was so lucky. Mole Hill, who, I don't know if you've seen this film, it's The Owl and the Pussycat by Edward
Mm-hmm.
Lear, but Mole Hill won the Animation BAFTA Award last year, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
British Film Academy Award for this film, and it's made of wax. So
Mm-hmm.
it's animated wax on a hot light underneath, with a warm light underneath, and he's literally scratched the whole film out of wax. It's absolutely beautiful.
And original. I mean,
Yeah,
when I think of wax,
it's
I remember Madame Tussauds. First thing I remember,
what was that?
Madame Tussauds
Oh,
Museum
Madame
of
Tussauds.
wax
Yes, sorry,
figures.
yes, of course. Yeah, but this is made out of a flat. It's a bit like having painted animation where you just paint
Hmm.
on glass. It's
Yes.
like that, only it's made of wax, which has got different, you know, as you scratch it down, it becomes brighter, yeah, and
Hmm.
it melts a bit. So he did all these, like the sea is made out of melted wax. It's absolutely stunning. Um, anyway, he very kindly gave us permission to show that. That was brilliant. Uh,
Hmm.
so that all these films, they kind of have to be okay for kids. They've got to be for a family audience, because
Hmm.
families go to this trail. So it's not like doing a film festival where you can say, okay, this is an over 18 program or something. You just can't do that.
It's
So
like 6+, right?
yeah, absolutely, or even younger actually. I mean, because kids, you know,
Hmm.
people bring their toddlers and they sit there and watch. So there's certain constraints, but all of the films that I choose are made by artists. Do you know what
Hmm.
I mean? They're not commercial films. And
Hmm.
they're people who are experimenting with media in particular.
Hmm.
Because
Like
if you think about,
non-profit films, right?
yeah, with a kind of, yeah, with a sort of tactile quality to a certain extent. I
Hmm.
think because it's a sculpture trail, you
Hmm.
want
I
something
see.
kind of got almost a tactile quality. So with mine,
Hmm.
I suppose it's like the leaves and yeah, and the cherries and things. They've got a kind of, it's like a collage really. It's a
Hmm.
kind of collage film really. I
Hmm.
call it collage. Yeah,
And your animated short film is a mixed media,
yeah, mixed.
uh,
Yeah,
2D mixed media.
yeah.
Can you tell a difference between 2D and 3D?
Okay, well, a program that I use a lot, which animators use a lot, is After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
And in After Effects, you can create lots of layers, and you can even create space between layers. So you can do sort of 3D lighting and things like that. And so you're working on layers, a bit like a multiplane, but
Mm-hmm.
you can put the sense of space between them. And so I suppose After Effects is kind of, it's 2D, but it's compositing, and you can add 3D elements.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 3D animation, well, of course, obviously you've got like CGI, you know, you've got
Mm-hmm.
the full-blown Maya and ZBrush and stuff. But then, of course, you've got the stop motion, because the guy you were talking to, Rick, who you were
Yes,
speaking to earlier,
Richie Valentino.
he does stop motion animation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've done some of that too, because I've spent my life teaching animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to experiment with everything in
Mm-hmm.
order to understand, you know, some of the things that the students do. Or what,
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so cool and so interesting. Always trying something
yeah,
new.
I do try and learn new things all the time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, what am I doing now? What am I learning? Right, oh, I've got to animate a load of children's drawings. That's the next thing I'm doing.
Awesome. And speaking of wax works, I was in Istanbul in October, and I went to Madame Tussauds Museum there.
In
And
Istanbul.
yes, and there is a statue of David and a statue of Victoria Beckham. So I sat next to Victoria, and I asked someone from the staff to take a picture, and a girl took a picture, and she's like, "Would you like a picture only with David?" I'm like, "No, I'm a Spice Girl." I'd like to have a picture with both of them. I love both of them. So, and I wanted to know, where do you teach?
Okay, I teach at Norwich University of the Arts. So if you look at
Mm-hmm.
England, there's a lump on the right-hand side, just
Mm-hmm.
above London, sort of thing. There's a little round lump, and Norwich is on that little round lump there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 100 miles from London,
Mm-hmm.
going slightly northeast.
Mm-hmm. I see.
It's not too far, it's 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
to drive, really, so it's not too bad.
It's
Um,
like going to the countryside,
yes,
right?
yeah, Norwich is a really old city. It's a medieval city, but
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of basically farmland, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an old flat. It's very flat,
Mm-hmm.
lots of water, rivers and lakes, and yeah. So yeah, it's nice. I live in the city, but I spend a lot of time outside in the country. And again, I think for me that's important, is to have nature in your films. I think nature's
Of course.
it's so important to everybody, and I think people now realize how important it is. And so I
Especially when we want to breathe, the fresh air
yeah,
became so important.
yes, it sure is. Yes, yeah, we breathe too many fumes, don't we? So yeah,
Yes.
so I tend to put a lot of things, like I put a lot of sky and clouds and trees
Mm-hmm.
in my
And
animations.
trees. And when they blossom, it's just so beautiful. It's like a commercial of a perfume, like with pink, beautiful flowers. It's so beautiful and
Oh,
colorful, I love see color, and when it's rich color, like in Pedro Almodovar's films,
yeah. Oh
blue,
wow.
red, uh, I
Yeah.
don't know, yellow, green, and you see the color. It's just so rich, and it brings me like a great mood, just
Yeah.
looking at these colors.
Oh,
It's
that's
like,
really
oh my God, it's like looking at the painting, right? And I'm already happy, I don't care about the plot.
yeah. I always think that animation's a bit like because film is made of light. I always think it's a bit. I try and work a bit like a stained glass window. That idea of sort of light coming through brightly coloured sort of segments. I love the colours in stained glass, which are
Hmm.
the blues and reds and yellows. So I think I think of them as being these kind of almost like a stained glass window.
Hmm.
Um,
I wanted to ask, who is your favorite poet? Since you
ooh,
make a lot of films,
okay.
based on poetry and inspired by poetry and poems, maybe it's George Byron, maybe
No,
someone
my,
else.
my favourite poet probably is Stevie Smith or Emily
Oh,
Dickinson. All my favourite poets tend to be women, I'm afraid. I think
why not?
Emily Dickinson, Sylvia Plath, Stevie Smith, I suppose they're kind of common things. But I did a lot of work on Hart Crane a few years ago.
Hmm.
My dear friend Sally Bailey, who's an author and an expert on American poets.
Hmm.
I worked with her on a, an animation about Sylvia Plath and another one about Hart Crane. And I think Hart Crane is pretty amazing.
Hmm.
Um, he, he's so clever because Hart Crane was a copywriter,
Hmm.
and he's got this incredible compression of language, and he's a trickster. So when you start to analyze his poems, he's pushing you everywhere. He literally kind of pulls you in different directions with his words. So I'm
I
pretty
see.
I'm pretty fond of him too. I
Hmm.
get fond of poets that I'm reading a lot. And I was saying to I did this podcast a little while ago. I
Yes,
sent you the link to.
yes,
Uh,
I'll check it out.
yeah, thanks. Well, I probably repeat myself if you hear what I'm going to say. Um, yes, I think this thing about poems. I said on that podcast, I never said it before, but they're like zipped files. A poem's
Hmm.
like a zipped file. As soon as you start to unpick it, it becomes a huge thing, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Um,
Unpacked,
yeah,
right?
that you can unravel them, and they're very deep and very wide, and they've got spaces in that you have to fill. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to animate a poem, you've got not to be literal. You've got to really try and do something that's to the side of it, that's a sort of take on it, without sort of slavishly following what the poem says.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really interesting exercise in language.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to find a visual language that sits with it but doesn't replace the words.
Yes, and you have to pick the most important uh, line or lines, right? And express the message
I think it's about
in a short time.
yeah. I think it's also about direction. I think it's
Yes.
the idea of movement. If you look at a poem, what's the kind of movement in it, and how can you repeat the kind of feeling of movement and get the journey of the poem rather than slavish copying. You know, I did
Mm-hmm.
this. I did an animation with Bill Manhire, who's a New Zealand poet,
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago. It's a very sad poem about soldiers who were killed in the First World War, and
Mm-hmm.
they're two-line epitaphs basically for all these soldiers. And so he compressed their lives into 2 lines. I mean, it was crazy. But I said to him, when I'm animating this, I said, do you want to have a look at what I'm doing? He said, no. He said,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to just get on and do what you want. He said, but don't make it literal. I said, I'm not going to. He said, the thing I hate as a poet, he said, somebody animates my poem and it mentions birds and I see a bird flying across. And he said, I hate it because that's not the point of the poem. And I said, well, absolutely. You know, I could just completely agree with you. So it's that thing. I mean, I think with this poem, that the one that you've very kindly added to your festival, okay, it is about a tree. There's a lot of the tree in it,
Mm-hmm.
but the story isn't exactly what the poem says. It's
Mm-hmm.
much, what I've done is far more seasonal. So I've described the life as 4 seasons,
Yes, Four
but
Seasons,
actually
like Vivaldi, you know,
the
you
poem
did it
does,
like Vivaldi, but on your own way.
yeah, but the poem doesn't really visit all the seasons. It has one season, but it doesn't, you know, that's because the poet said to me, Vicky, I said, what do you think? She said, it's great. She said, I hadn't thought about the poem being in 4 seasons or a life being
Mhm.
in 4 seasons as well. You know, that's
And
just
it's
how,
just like, and it's not just 1 year, you know, you understand that it's
yeah,
an entire life.
it can be an entire life in 1 year. Absolutely. Which is what it feels
Hmm.
like. When you get to my age, it feels like I've
Hmm.
only been here about a year, you know? Actually, it's
Hmm.
nearly 70 years. But
Hmm. But who can tell, you know, no one.
who cares?
So since you collaborate with a lot of directors, you know, on stage at theater as well, not only you know on
Well,
screen
maybe.
but also on stage, who is your favorite playwright?
Oh gosh. Oh God, that's really hard. Um,
Okay, who is your favorite British playwright?
well, I was
Maybe
thinking about Samuel.
Shakespeare?
I was thinking about, well, of course, everybody's, but I was thinking about sort of Samuel Beckett in a way because he's so far.
I love Samuel
Yeah,
Beckett's
yeah,
Theater of the Absurd. Oh,
yeah. But so true. You know, about people
absolutely.
cannot communicate with each other and have
Mm-hmm.
and get stuck. I mean, um, this year when we did the Sacré Théâtre, we did sketches this year because of COVID. We couldn't have a live
Mm-hmm.
performance, so we've made a film which hasn't come out yet, but it's a film
Mm-hmm.
of sketches. And the most powerful one was from Waiting for Godot.
Oh, I love Waiting for Godot. I actually saw it on Broadway with Sir Ian McKellen.
Oh,
He
fantastic!
was so great. It
Absolutely
was a
brilliant.
British production, and oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't even need to speak, you
it's
know.
on now.
He just waits for Godot, and that's it. It's just brilliant, and he's so genius. Every gesture, every look. I mean, it's just perfect. And I love the play, and I also love the last tape of Crap, Samuel Beckett's other play, and the Happy Days. And I remember one of the characters, so like a lady and a gentleman, right? And she says, "I'm not asking if you loved me. It's clear." So, like, we know that you did. But
It's
it's
a very,
clear.
that's a really good line, actually. I think
Yes, I'm
we all
not
need to
asking.
remember it.
That was not a question, right?
Amina,
Yes.
you're not going to believe this, but my phone is running out again.
No,
It's giving
okay,
me
but
the,
I mean, I
yeah.
just want to say that it was a pleasure talking to you,
Oh, it's
and
lovely.
you did a fantastic short film, animated
Thank you.
short film in 2D mixed media format, and it's so special and touching, and in a very small time you said so much.
Thank
It's
you.
really difficult, just like expressing your feelings and telling your story in a one-act play. It's way
Yes.
harder than to make it in a full-length play, because you have time, you have space, you have a few hours and intermission, right? So, and here it's way more difficult, just as Arthur Miller said. It's way harder to write a one-act play than a full-length play.
Well, you can make a feature film out of a short story.
Yeah, of
For
course.
instance, what is it from the chamber? Oh, it's gone. Company of Wolves
Mm-hmm.
was made from a short story by Angela Carter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really short story. I've got it, and a whole feature film is made from that. But from a poem, you could probably make a good. Well, you can make a short easily, but
Mm-hmm.
you can also make micro shorts. And I'm very interested in micro shorts.
Yes, it's like a trailer, like a long
Yeah.
trailer.
Well, I think, to be honest, it's about film language, and because we're so used to commercials, which
Mm-hmm.
compress film language so incredibly. I mean, literally, they will tell a whole day story in 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But cutting these scenes together, that I mean, I know they're simple, but we now can understand very, very compressed narratives through film,
Mm-hmm.
and animation will leap into that space.
Mm-hmm.
Partly
And
because we have to
that's
do like 3,000 images for a 3-minute film, so we will leap into a space where we can make micro shorts.
mm-hmm. And also you have to say like a few lines, right? Within a few minutes, and put like the most important thing in these lines, right? To cut what's not important, what's not really important, and to choose what's the most important, in this
Ellie.
poem. So when you had a two lines poem, I'm like, yeah, it's hard, but at least you don't have a lot to cut, right?
That's
So
right.
it's easy.
No, with animation, you do all the editing before you start. Honestly, you
Yeah.
do, because you can't do 2,000 drawings and then just throw them away. So animation, you really do make a storyboard. You really do time it, and you really do count the number of drawings you're going to have to make. That's because
Yes.
you haven't got time to waste stuff. You haven't got time to waste footage. Very little got on the cutting room floor. Very little.
Hmm. I
So
see.
that's the difference with animation, I think, in a way, is that you have to be very disciplined. Once you've made your mind up,
Hmm.
you've got to stick with it. It might go wrong, but you've got to stick with it.
Hmm.
Anyway,
So my last question
go
is,
on.
what is your favorite animated film? It can be a feature, short,
Right,
any
I can easily answer it. It's not a problem. My favorite animated film is by Yuri Norstein, the Russian animator, and it's called Tale of Tales.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
it's been my favorite animated film for about 20 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think everybody should look at it. It is a piece of amazing art. It's superb. Yeah, Tale
Mm-hmm.
of Tales, Yuri Norstein. If you haven't
Yeah.
look at it, because it speaks a lot about human nature. It talks about Russian history. It talks about war. It talks about the effects of war. It's a very sad film, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
a film that's incredibly humanly engaging, and it's done through the character of a little wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And the wolf is almost like a child, although the wolf ends up nursing the baby. But anyway, it's got lots of allegory in it, and I think you'd love it. It's amazing.
Definitely,
It's,
definitely. I love animation in general. It's
I keep
my
watching.
favorite genre now.
Yeah.
I want to move to animation.
Don't move to animation. You don't get any sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
just
don't
work
get
all
any sleep
night.
anyway.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you.
Suzie Hanna, and good luck, with all your projects.
Thank you. And it's lovely to meet you. And thank you very much for
Same here.
choosing the film and for giving us a chance to have a chat. It's lovely. Okay.
Yes,
Thanks,
same
Anita.
here. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.
So, guys, I will see you all tomorrow, and I'll continue these IG live series. So see you guys tomorrow on January 8th.
Okay.